The purpose of this video is to talk about AI use in your argumentative research essay, highlight places where it's acceptable, and talk about the situations of when it is not acceptable. Alright, so as we've talked about every other time that we have gone through AI use in our units, there is this syllabus language for the entire course that just explains that these videos exist. If I have any concern about the authenticity of your writing, specifically if it's been used to bypass the learning of the learning goal of that assignment, that I'll let you know. I'll send you an email, I'll pop in a temporary 0, we can chat about it, and then we will just move on. You can either redo it or you can hang on to that 0 if you maybe are fine with a grade drop or something like that. Alright, so one of the things that you could do is brainstorm topic ideas. Now, I just went through and read all of your Artifact 14s back from a couple of weeks ago on your feelings of using AI, and you guys were on different spectrums. You know, some people said brainstorming is a way that sort of for them feels like it's bypassing their ability to think critically and to generate ideas. And some people said that brainstorming is great, a great way to use AI. And I'm in the middle. You know, I think that AI is going to give everybody the same X number of topics if you just give it a generic brainstorm. So I think you should, if you're going to use it to brainstorm, I think you should let it know a little bit about your interests. Ask it for like weird, uncommon, quirky, narrow ideas, and ask it for a lot more than you would need. You know, don't just ask it for 3 or 4. If you wouldn't be overwhelmed with 20 to 100 suggestions, then ask it for as many as you wouldn't be overwhelmed going through. And the reason for that is because first, you want things that are going to be unique. So at this stage, college level writing, we do not want those boring topics that everybody picks and everyone writes about. I want to know an argument that you actually care about, and while you might care about speeding laws or seatbelt laws or whether social media is bad or good for you, like truly, what are you doing with your life on a daily basis? And how can you bring that into what you're writing about? You know, are there troubles at work? Are there things that are stressing you out? Are there ideas that you just need to explore in a way that gets your thoughts across? Did you just read an amazing book and you want to write a literary analysis about it? I mean, there's so much better things out there. So asking it, if you are going to use it to brainstorm, asking it for weird, quirky, uncommon, narrow things, that might give you ideas that you might even then transform into something that truly feels like your own brainstorm. And then the number of ideas, asking for as many as isn't going to overwhelm you, is to give you still a chance to think critically through the brainstorming process, because you're going to have to assess each suggestion, right? And the more that you do that, the more that your brain gets to practice of, could I write about this in 4 pages? Can I find research on this topic? Am I even interested in this? That consistent cycle of asking yourself those questions for more than just 3 or 4 topics is going to benefit you more than just like, hey, give me 3 college essay topics. Avoid that as a brainstorm prompt. You really don't want AI's college essay topic ideas. Okay. Searching for sources. So it is okay to ask in any AI platform, and please be reminded that this is purely for our class. Your other classes might feel completely different, and that's absolutely acceptable for them to feel that way. For me, for English 111 with Miss Osborne, it is fine with me if you want to use a platform like ChatGPT to suggest sources. You just have to make sure that they're real sources. So this is the thing that most of my students will get 0s for, is giving me a list of like works cited sources, and then I look every single one of your sources up. I make sure that the author is the author that's stated, the title is what's stated, the website is what's stated, the date of publication is what's stated. I verify every single one of your citations because this is a very common way for students to bypass the research aspect of this. And you might not even know that that's what's happening. So you really have to be careful, and you have to make sure that any sources that ChatGPT includes in, if you're asking it for an outline or if you're asking it for a little draft of a paragraph, if it's giving you any research, you have to verify that it exists. You would never want to just ask it for like summaries of sources and then just trust that those sources are real. You want to check in every step of the way that source can be validated, because what will happen is if I can't find it, I'm going to ask you to share it with me. And if you can't share it with me, then you'll have to remove it from your paper, or you'll end up getting like a failing grade on the part of the rubric that talks about research and citing and things like that. Okay. When you are bringing sources into your writing, if you bring in some summaries, ideally it would be best if you wrote those summaries on your own. Most of the time your writing itself doesn't need summaries, and there's not a huge area in the like what we're working on at the beginning of this unit is coming up with a list of sources that you're thinking of using. It's okay to kind of ask ChatGPT for a little summary of a source. I think it's better if you're giving it the source itself and you're saying, here's the source that I'm using, like copy and pasting or uploading a file. It's probably not searching the internet unless you have a very fancy paid version. But so it's okay to have it summarize complicated content. It's okay to have it summarize content where you're thinking, am I going to use this source later? I don't know. Let me just quickly see how it might be useful. But as far as once you've decided to use a source, then you really need to make sure you're going in and reading that source on your own, so that as you're including it in your writing, you know that you're including it in a way that's honest. Because it being the AI, like a ChatGPT will take stuff out of context, because it's just an algorithm of language. It's not actually understanding anything. Quoting sources is okay, if you're trying to pull quotes, but AI has a problem pulling quotes because of the fact that it's got its language model. It's just predictive text, right? It can quote again if you have that sort of like paid access where it's just a little bit better at doing things, or it has a little more functionality. It might pull quotes for you, but I have also seen it make up quotes, like just the quote completely does not exist, or misquote something. So it might sound similar to the ideas that are in the text that you read, but the quote itself is not there. And this is another thing that I am meticulous on. I will look up all of your quotes that you've included in your writing, and make sure that they actually came from your source. So you want to you probably want to do the legwork on your own, because otherwise you're just going to have to verify everything, and that's the same amount of work as doing it on your own. Citing. I think it's fine to use citation generators. The biggest reason I say this is because I advocate the use of researching through ProQuest. You guys will be introduced to that this week. And ProQuest has an auto cite function where any of the sources that you find in ProQuest, it will just create a citation for you. And ProQuest is considered to be an academic database. It has that functionality. So from my perspective, I have no problem with you using any other kind of generator to create your citations in MLA format, but you have to know what you're doing. So a couple of things. I recommend, if you're going to use like something like AI, ChatGPT, to create a citation for you, I don't recommend just giving it a link and calling it a day and say, hey, can you cite this in MLA format? What you need to do is you need to give it all of the details it needs to have. So you need to say, this is the author, this is the title, this is the website, this is the date it was published, here is the URL. Can you now format an MLA ninth edition citation for me? If not, you want to specify the citation format. You want to specify what edition we're in. We're in the ninth edition or possibly the 10th edition, although I don't think they made any huge changes there if they have leveled up to 10. But you want to specify that because, I mean, when I was in school, MLA was in its 6th edition, and we were still putting words like print and web at the end of our citations. So if it's a little outdated, whatever generator you might be using, then it could give you the wrong info or even the right info, but the wrong format. And it'll mess up your in-text citations if you rely on it for that. It'll put them in APA format. So you just have to be real careful. I don't mind if you use it, but you'll be responsible for its accuracy. So just make sure that you are checking your citations. Make sure it's giving you the proper author. If there isn't an author, then it shouldn't be giving an author. Sometimes it'll make up people like Jane Doe or John Smith. It really likes to make up those kinds of names and things like that. So you can kind of be on the lookout, but just verify. You have to verify everything. Okay. Editing your writing, I'm fine with this. This is how most people are using it. You just got to be careful. So you'll notice that the assignment sheet for Unit 3 says that we will have an in-person discussion about your writing if the final has 60% or more AI generation in it. And that's just so that I can see your process and I can hear you present in your writing. If you're upwards of 80 to 100% of AI, then we'll definitely have a conversation about whether you used AI unethically for this. But you got to be careful if you're using something like Grammarly to edit your writing. You really don't want to allow it to make a ton of unnecessary changes because it can reword and restructure your entire sentences. And I've had so many emails from students saying like, oh, I turned this in, but it's saying like 85% AI generated, and I only used Grammarly. I wrote all of this myself, but I used Grammarly, and it's just because Grammarly is turning your writing into what sounds AI generated when you let it accept all of these, phrase changes. So if you're comfortable with using these platforms to edit, just use it like you would Microsoft Word. Look for problems, look for grammatical errors, but don't let it do the thing you think sounds good, which makes make it sound more professional. Don't let it make you sound more professional. You really don't want it to do that because it just takes away all of your humanity. It takes away everything that we have worked on in Unit 1. So sound like you and just write without error. That's how you should be using these things. Okay, tutoring, as always, is perfectly fine. And then at the end of every unit, as you guys have seen so far, we will have reflections. I don't want you to use any AI assistance whatsoever, including Grammarly. Your reflection should be purely your own. And so, how you write for me, some of y'all just like don't put any capitalization or periods when you're just like writing to reflect. That's the kind of reflection that I want to see here. Now, I'm not going to be worried if I see beautiful writing. Some of y'all just naturally write with proper grammar and things like that. But I can read when something is like heavily AI generated. So just please write authentically for your reflections. Continue to do that, and you'll be good to go. I think that covers everything. If there's anything missing, anything you're like, hey, what about this? Can I use AI in this way? Just send me an email and I'll let you know.